Well, I can drive in the old scanner, so it's been glowing cherry red from doing films the last couple of days. It's been a lot of fun going through them. It's actually the scanning part's the easy part. It's the fixing the colors and cutting out all the bad splices. I was doing one last night where the guy got some really nice footage of Universal Studios, but he evidently at times would just forget to turn the camera off. So you got some really nice footage of, the camera swinging as you walk down the sidewalk, and you see people's feet and stuff like that. If you talk about nausea inducing from the rides earlier, Ken, you're watching this thing and the entire world just keeps going back. And you keep thinking, boy, how expensive that would get to be, and you only had 3.5 minutes or so of film to do it. And this guy, evidently, he would do it and then it'd stop and they get to the next thing and keep going. So I'd cut all those out. So let me go and share screen here. We will start with the first one. I will optimize for video clip and share. And I have to move this out of the line here. We should now be seeing Reel 26, 1967. So we're going to start at the Disneyland with a amateur film.
The 16 mm, Bill?
No, this one here is, I can't remember if this was 8 or Super 8.
Yeah.
One thing I remember was super dark. You can see in some of these scenes, like on the Jungle Cruise. So many of these cameras had fixed f-stops. I remember my parents getting one camera that was really fancy, had an electric eye and would adjust for things. And I think it got left on a bus. So, how well it worked, I don't know, because I think they never got one single reel developed with it. But most of these were single f-stop cameras. Some of them you could adjust the f-stop. Others, they were just fixed, like the movie version of a Brownie box camera. Let me let somebody in here. So out in front of the train station, it's interesting to try to figure out what years were, what. Luckily, this was written on the box, but sometimes you can date them by the fact that the attraction posters are in front of the train station or not. Sometimes they pick up the amount of population of Disneyland, and you can start figuring out when the 100 millionth guest was or whatever, and start dating it that way.
What date is this one?
1967.
Yeah, I was gonna say that a lady's dress and hairdo says
Yeah.
1960s, yeah.
Yeah, you can very definitely. When we get into the 70s, you see some very definite hairstyle and clothing styles.
I think I just saw it none.
Wurlitzer was still there on Main Street.
Boy, it's crowded for that time.
I got a kick out of this one. I don't remember Pinocchio carrying the thing of books in any recent visits. So that was a nice, thing. He's on his way to school and he's got his, books all strapped there. I was thinking he could also use that for self-defense if the crowd gets too bad. Still like the castle better before they gimmicked up all the paint jobs, and to me, really went over the top with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Sawyer Island before the pirate overlay. So that's that one. Let me go grab a next one here. Okay, let's see. Where did I put that? Oh, I will get it here. This was interesting. It came in a box of it just said basically full color home movies, no year, copyright, or anything like that on it. But then you start getting into it, and it's a kind of interesting souvenir film. So let me move this out of the way. So dated this to 1956-57 by various odds and ends. But what's really interesting about this is the colors held up really well compared to the later films that they used, where they turned bright red, as we've seen in other weeks. So, they used different stocks at different points in time. And unfortunately, the cheaper ones as the years went on, not better ones. This is also interesting. If you look at the name of the train as it goes by, It's Rainbow Mountain Railroad. There was no Rainbow Ridge Railroad. There was no Rainbow Caverns Railroad, because this was all before some of those part of the attractions were put in. But I thought that was a great shot. The pony ride, the mule ride, I guess, the train. So this was very early when there was just basically the painted desert to go through. Also lived the woman with the coolie type hat that they sold those made out of paper at Disneyland too in the early days. You got to think about what an amazing thing this was, though, in 1956, for a theme park. But this was also interesting. There's some great footage of the bad guy here. This was really dark, and the computer did a great job of pulling his face out. You'll see in a moment. The Frontier Gun Shop, don't have that anymore.
Yeah, I remember watching these gunfights.
Well, it's not Alec Baldwin.
It's interesting. I posted a picture of the gunfighter the other day, and somebody swore, but they never had gunfights at Disneyland. Walt would never have allowed it. And you go, really? Yeah, hold my beer.
Yeah, there was a whole musical number in the opening of Disneyland, that live broadcast with Fess Parker singing about shooting Indians with his gun.
In the last scene, it was just a totally different boat dock or raft dock for Tom Sawyer Island than we're used to.
Okay, so how did they do those flames?
Propane gas. Metal building painted to look like wood. We're going to see more of that when we get to Universal later, but just propane gas. They eventually stopped putting it on fire. And one of the reasons was the gas line sprung a leak. And then they decided in the Paul Pressler days it was too expensive to fix it. And we're coming back to the dock.
So where do you keep finding these old films, on eBay?
Mostly on eBay, yeah. And every now and then somebody just writes to me and offers them to me. I will also at times happily restore things for people if there are subjects that I particularly like and say, just let me share a copy of them. Nice overhead view there of the whole area. You can see a bridge right off to the right there that used to connect the lands over, that they filled that in. Let me go get the next one here.
Bill, or anybody that's Disney wise, the gun shop, it didn't sell real guns. I'm sure. Did it sell toy guns?
Yes, it was toy guns. Okay, now this one is interesting that they did two souvenir films together, Main Street and Adventureland. So let me pull this up here. So you got this one box that had these two different subjects in there. They also sold them as two separate ones. So, that you could get just the Main Street or just the Adventureland one. Why they put them out as a combined one, I don't know. This was pretty red, so I was very happy to see how I was able to get the colors to come back on this one for the most part.
That was amazing, the balloons.
Yeah, Main Street Theater. These guys, these kids here did this routine where they would, perform and dances that you could actually get your shoe shined out there on Main Street. And evidently they didn't get paid a lot of money, but they made an absolute fortune in tips. So they were very, very happy to get that particular gig out there, the Main Street Shoe Shine Boys. I thought that was an interesting shot to put in of all the things you want to remember on Main Street, the guy sweeping it up. Or the guy with the honey wagon cleaning up after the horses. And we make our way over to Adventureland. So it was a lot more of Adventureland than there was on Main Street in this particular reel.
Not much to show on Main Street.
No, but I would have liked to seen more of the signage, or, you know, I frankly thought they would have had the trains, some other items like that in there.
Oh, yeah. Show the horse-drawn streetcar.
Right. They did put out a separate reel of the trains, so maybe they didn't want to take away from that. Okay, who wants to be our skipper and tell all the bad jokes? Take your last look back at civilization as we head into the jungle. I still think I would have been a great Jungle Cruise skipper. I mean, I love bad jokes, you know. I'd like to point out some of the plants as we go along our way. There's two to the left. Oh, there's another one on the right.
Now,
Not that
that
I've
boat
taken
ran on
that
a
ride a
track.
few times over the years.
That boat was running on a track, wasn't it?
Yes, they're all on the track.
A track.
Every so often one comes off and it causes a bit of mayhem.
That's when the skipper fires multiple shots. I think it's like 5 shots in a row or something means send out a boat. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Bill, does the software you use allow you to eliminate like the scratches there on the right?
Yeah, not so much. There is a program, it runs about $10,000, which I am never going to own, that does a really good job of doing it. The program I use does a pretty good job of taking out, just dirt or a horizontal scratch, because that will go across a frame. So it looks at a frame, looks at the next frame, looks at the third frame, and then into the middle one tries to figure out what has suddenly appeared on there that's not in the frame before or after the one it's analyzing. The trouble with a horizontal scratch, it's in each frame, so it doesn't really have the ability to go and subtract it. As I said, some people have written some absolutely amazing software, and hobbyists like me keep trying to tell them we don't need the entire package. Could you put out like a light version? And no, we do just fine selling it to the big studios, and thank you very much. So it can be done, but I can't do it.
Sort of going in frame by frame and fixing it.
Yeah, and I was mentioning to somebody the other day, a film like this will be 24 to 40,000 frames. I can't do that in my lifetime. Just even doing it for one still picture takes quite a while. So the thought of trying to do, any number of them is just, kind of hard. So let me jump here. What do I get next? Let me go to the 64 World's Fair. And here we go. So we are going to hop in here. And we're visiting Florida. These birds, the flamingos, got to spend the winter between the two fairs out visiting other flamingos at the Bronx Zoo. And they were brought into the aviary out there and kept there warm for the time. You can imagine the winters in New York are pretty severe, so they had to take care of the palm trees and try to cover those up and put heaters around them, and the birds got to go on vacation. Nice view of Carousel Park off to the right-hand side.
Bill, is this an amateur film?
Yes, it is. This is somebody's home video. Big Ole over at Minnesota. He is in Minnesota these days. There's the Vatican Pavilion. We mentioned that statue's up in Kennebunkport, Maine. This was 8mm. Super 8 didn't exist yet at this point in time. It's interesting how long he held on that shot. Very, very dark interior of one of the pavilion's gift shops. Out to Spain.
Very nice feather.
And I'm going to stop sharing here 1 second because I realize I need to go back and reshare, but to share sound because the Expo 67 film has a sound on it. So here, let me share. Oh, I got it all set for that. So let me share here. Let me go and get the Expo one. This Expo one is kind of neat. It's let me pull that up here. Where did it go? Where did I put that? Oh, I gotta find it. It's really a oh, here it is. Okay. Let me just go and share screen here. I gotta redo this 1 second. Share screen. There it is. Here's the movie. So in this particular one, this comes from a reel of 35 millimeter film that I don't have the ability to scan 35 millimeter, but somebody else did. And to preface it, this is a preview film that was done before Expo 67 opened that was shown to audiences, to start building up interest in it. If you're familiar with the term called vinegar syndrome, where movies start to rot and self-compose, as soon as you open up the box that this was in, it smells like literally a jar or a bottle of vinegar. So able to save it, got the colors partially back. The fellow that did it sent me the scan. He's now sending me back the raw files. And as soon as I get the raw files, I'll play more with the color. But let's jump into some 35 millimeter fun from Expo. Oh, wait a second. There should be sound here. What's going on?
This is one of those movies.
Hang on. Why isn't there sound? Oh, it loses everything with that sound. Hang on 1 second here. Let me try doing it, just watching it on this end for a second, make sure it's got sound. Come on. Where did you go, movie? I apologize. Okay, let me click OK. Yeah. Let's see. Where did that damn movie go again? I just had it and too many windows. Where did that go? So, oh, here it is. It's showing no sound on my end for some reason. I will have to come back to that. It's a great movie, and I don't know why the sound is not showing on it. So I will skip that one for a moment, and we will go. Since I have Kenneth here, Kenneth, would you like to see some of Lake George?
But of course.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said yes, because we're going to. Let me.
Whether you like it or not.
That's right.
I was a plant in the audience.
Yeah, Lake George, it's again, if you're into kiddie parks and theme parks, Lake George was a great spot to go to. They had all sorts of places up there. Let me just cue this one up and share screen. Okay, optimize video clip. Here we go, share. So Lake George, if you're not familiar with it, it's up above Albany, but this was an area that's called Great Adventure now. Back at this time, it was called Storytown. It's a great little theme park. And a lot of pieces from the 64, 65 New York World's Fair ended up here. So as a kid, this was really something, a fellow named Charles Wood designed it and built it. Not the same guy, C.V. Wood, that did Freedom Land, but built this park up there, and you can still go there today. And a lot of these attractions that are 50 years old and 60 years old in some of these movies are still there and used today. They've gone on a higher, thrill ride quota and everything than than this particular sort of day. But they again, he went down to the sale at the 64 fair and bought all sorts of stuff back.
That's Jungle Land. That was cheesy as all get out. I loved it.
Boa constrictor, his version of the Jungle Cruise. Walt had hippos, so he had hippos. He also had headhunters and that sort of thing. Skyway across the park. looking from the skyway, so it's a little disjointed. But my parents took us there as kids. We went to enjoy, and then Carol and I were back in New York and took Margot there. You know, so it's just great fun. And they had, again, they had a Jungle Land, just like Disneyland. They had different themes. So this was their old West town, and they would do a big shootout in the middle of the street. And I showed in one other movie how the bad guy runs down the street, and the sheriff basically tells all the kids, "Let's go get him." And you just have 200 kids running down the street chasing after the bad guy. You hope he was faster than the fastest kid, because they would have just let him have it. This was just on the end of the reel. If you're into trains, this is the Mount Washington Cog Railway. It's one of the steepest inclined trains. And it's just like the lifts going up and down a roller coaster, where you go up and you can hear it going clackety, 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 as the wheels are going over the cogs, so it doesn't slide back down uncontrolled. So this is in New Hampshire.
I actually broke out in hives on one of the trips up the Cog Railway. Halfway up, interesting place to have a problem.
Really? What caused it? Nerves or?
No, I think it was actually back at the hotel, something in the washing of the sheets or whatever. It just took its time to impact. So I got into a doctor, they gave me some stuff and it seemed to take care of it.
Well, I hope you didn't have a relapse now.
We'll see.
Bill made me itchy. Bill made me itchy. This I got a kick out of. I love the color on this old sign, the Melody Manor Motel. So I actually looked it up. It is still there at Lake George. Matter of fact, it looked really nice. And we're going to be back in that area this summer. So I may try to actually book a room and stay at the hotel. But this is the sort of thing we'd go up with the, my grandparents would take my brother Jim and my cousin Bob on vacation each year to give our parents a break from, so I always say, the mischief caused by us rambunctious kids. And we would go up to Lake George and stay at hotels like this. And then there's so many theme parks up there at that point in time. There was Frontierland, there was Santa's Village, all sorts of other places. And then a lot of natural things to do. Sable Chasm, a real interesting spot to go through. So again, just great fun and memories. So we're going to see some more of the area. There's the lake itself. Just kind of to me, a more relaxing vacation than people like Kenneth just went through. No fast passes, lightning lanes, or anything like that. Just go and relax at the lake, which of course is kind of passé these days. But if you go up to Lake George, it's still pretty busy up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fort Ticonderoga is up there too.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, and just think now you can go and visit the Star Trek experience.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, is this where a lot of what do they call them, Borscht Belt hotels? Was this the area?
No, that was the Catskills. This is the foothills of the Adirondack Mountains, which are the taller set of the two mountain chains in New York. So the Borscht Belt, know it very, very well. That's where my Boy Scout camp that Carlos, who's on the call, he and I worked at. Rich Herring, others know that real well. But they didn't have the big hotels up in this area. There's one big hotel right on Lake George that's very ritzy, and it's where Rachel Ray worked, getting her start. But for the most part, this was all these little mom and pop motels scattered around the area. They didn't have big showrooms or things like that, like the Borscht Belt hotels, which are almost to a one, all gone these days.
There's one left.
Yeah, which one is that?
The Raleigh.
The Raleigh.
And-
Okay.
Yeah, they mainly cater to Orthodox Jews, but they also have for non-religious.
It used to be when you drove up on Route 17, there were all these billboards off to the side for all the hotels, and I forget which one it was. Jerry Lewis, they used his likeness, a cartoon likeness of him, trying to get you to come.
Ratner's.
Which one?
I believe it was Ratner's had a hotel up there,
Okay.
and you also had the Concord,
Yep.
and that was like the biggest was the Concord.
That's where our senior trip was, and I still remember there was guys that figured out, you couldn't bring alcohol on the trip, but they let you bring things like a watermelon. And if you took a syringe, you could have a very alcohol-filled watermelon indeed.
You can still find films on YouTube. There's big hotels and ruins. They lay that way for years and then they were demolished. Grossinger's was another big one.
Yeah, we went through the Grosinger ruins a few years ago, and that was some huge facility. And we drove through there again, Route 9W. Boy, I know this real well from living up in the Albany area. Super dark. You can only do so much to bring them back. Again, maybe if I had the nifty $10,000 thing. So we're going up to Whiteface Mountain now. This is up to the northeast of Lake Placid, New York. Lake Placid, you may have heard of from the Olympics that have been held there twice so far. But Whiteface Mountain's a ski area, and they have a toll road you can go up to and tour the mountain area, look down at the lakes, Tupper Lakes, and the other down below. And they have a chairlift that runs throughout the year, not just during the ski season. Except I think we see in this picture it's closed one day a week. But if you're in the area, this is just a beautiful, beautiful area. The Adirondacks, I loved going to college up in that area because when we didn't have snow, there was so much of the area to go explore and go take trips to these places. So we're 4,610 feet above sea level up here. There's actually a thing in New York, and I forget how many mountains there are, but they have the X number of highest mountains, and people will go and climb them and post their pictures. And some of them, like I think it's Mount Marcy, is one of the harder ones, in terms of steepness to get up to. So I have not, and nor will I climb all of them. That's basically telling you to stay on the path, don't climb. A little higher, yep. And we're almost to the end of this sequence. And again, the chairlift is closed on Mondays. With my luck, that'd be the day I'd go, so. But if you do get a chance to go upstate New York, go at fall foliage. You can see the colors are just starting here. It's absolutely breathtaking up there. The Quickway, the road that goes from Albany up to, well, it's actually the Northway rather, goes up from Albany up to Canada, was voted the most scenic highway in the United States in 1967. Just a real quick view inside. But it's really a very nice drive indeed. And at times you'll be on the road and you won't see a car in front of you or a car behind you. It's not like driving out here on say Interstate 10. So I had another one here. Let's see where I put this one. Let me just move this window here 1 second. I had one. I think I put it under miscellaneous. Let me look here.
While you're looking, Bill, for those of you who like Catskill Resorts, I just put in the chat, I put a note for a book called Catskill Resorts, Lost Architecture of Paradise. It's really a good read if you're interested in those resorts. It goes through all the major ones and the architecture and their entire lifespan of them. It's fascinating stuff.
Oh, great. I have to look for that. Thank you.
Explain why they closed.
Yeah.
I think reduced prices in air travel is what hurt them.
This next one is here for Kenneth, and I'm just hang on. So yeah, everybody is a space fan, but you're going to get a real kick out of it. I want everybody to count the mistakes. So Kenneth and Carolyn, you can feel free to point them out as they go along. This was a reel film. Let me just stop this 1 second and move this out of the way. Sometimes you buy, a roll of film and there's something else in the box. This was something else that was in here, and we're going to take a look at the space program. But again, I want you to see how many mistakes, particularly in things like quotes and stuff, you can catch in this one. So off we go. We're on our way to the moon.
looks like it might be Apollo 11.
It is there they go. They're on their way. Yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
This is all looking surprisingly familiar.
This was another one that was bright red, so it was fun to be able to bring most of it back. Now here, watch the mistakes.
That was not the quote.
Yeah, that was like, let's just make up a quote.
I like the way a controller was hitting his head after that. Like, can't they even
How
get
about
that
this
right?
one right here?
For a man.
For
Actually-
Amen. Yeah,
Actually, Neil
It's always
Chambers
under
actually did say
discussion.
amen. That it was
he was
lost.
so excited he didn't say it. So, but
Yeah.
they put it back in there for him.
Yeah.
And again, it's interesting. You think this is what, people had to do for home entertainment back then. You look at all those footprints. This particular reel would have cost about $12 at that point in time.
Hmm.
So in 1967, 69 rather, this was a good amount of money, for people to be spending on a 4-minute reel of home movies. You also figure, other than us who are real space fiends or fans, how often would you actually watch it, right? Now they talk about an anxious world holding its breath. I imagine the guys on board were sure holding theirs.
Yeah, editor that I am, I wanted to correct that.
Yes, that's what I said. There's so many.
Exactly.
Where's a good English
World holds
teacher when you
its
need them?
breath. Spinning something in space.
Must be duct tape.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Well,
Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
big leap in time.
And the guys from 13 were damn glad for that duct tape, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Bill, a quick side note on 13 was that when they were returning to Earth and the command module was separated from the service module, and they were describing back to NASA what had happened with the command module, what it looked like from the explosion. The CBS artists, because they were reporting it live at the time, the CBS artists had quickly come up with an illustration to put on the screen for the viewers to see, roughly at the same time that they were describing what the command module had looked like after it had been destroyed or been exploded. And what they found later was when they got back to Earth and they processed the actual pictures that they had taken of the command module, that they found that the illustrations by the CBS artists were remarkably accurate based on the descriptions that they were given at the time, compared to the actual photographs that had been taken. Sometimes those illustrations are odd, and don't depict it quite, are depicted oddly, but they had found that the CBS artists had depicted what the explosion had looked like on the command module rather accurately, based on the photographs that had been developed later when they got back to Earth.
Oh, that's neat. Thanks. I stopped it here just for 1 second. The astronauts, we saw them all get picked up and into the helicopter, and then so you figure how many divers and everything were around them. Right now we're coming down the steps from the helicopter, and there's all these people just standing here, and then they go into their containment thing, because back then they weren't sure what if there were deadly diseases brought back from the from the moon. So they're walking in there, the guy in the orange suit's going to go in there with them, and then they're going to close the door. But you think about movies like the Andromeda Strain, right? What if the stuff you were bringing back from the moon was really deadly? How did they pick the guy that got the job with his door? You're talking about being in harm's way.
Don't
Yeah.
inhale.
Short straw.
Yep, yep.
Seniority.
No, but if the things had been, really deadly, boy, that would have been really bad. Okay, let me stop that there. And I'm going to just go and stop the, close this for 1 second here, because I want to go and see if I can. I had 2 different copies of the Expo 67 film, and let me see if I can just find the other one. 1 second. It would have been under downloads. Let's see if we've got music on this particular one. Yes, okay. So this one has a little less restoration done on it, but it will give me what I want to do here. Just share screen, okay. Move things out of the way. This is the trouble. You move windows around, they go where they want to go, not where you want them to go. So let me get out of here. And
There you go.
To be a man is to feel that by placing one stone, one contributes to building the edifice of the world. To be a man is to be one of more than 3 billion people, and yet be unique, and every one an individual. Man thinks, and tries, and hopes. Man lives on this world and uses it to fashion his tomorrow. Man and his world. Man and his world. This is Expo 67. In the last 20 years, man has discovered more about his planet than he had learned since the beginning of history. Today, he's reaching for the moon. In 1967, Canada invites you to come to the province of Quebec. You'll see the only first category world exhibition ever held in North America. You can explore the whole of man's world in miniature. This will be Expo 67 in Montreal. Paul Chomedy de Maisonneuve, the founder of Montreal more than 300 years ago, in a place the Indians called Hochelaga, at the place of the Beaver Dam. Now it's the biggest city in Canada and the second largest French-speaking city on Earth. If you're coming here by ship, the liner will bring you right up to the exhibition islands. You can drive up on brand new highways. You can take a train from anywhere in North America. You can touch down at Montreal Airport from anywhere in the world. For many months now, Montreal has been preparing to receive millions of visitors, and she's ready now to welcome you. Your ticket is printed like a passport, because your visit to Expo 67 will be a visit to the world. There'll be more than 70 different nations participating at Expo in 67, in the same year that Canada celebrates the centennial of her Constitution. This is her pavilion. In the center is the Katimavik. It's an Eskimo word and it means meeting place. For at Expo, you can meet the people of the United States. They'll show you America's creative achievements in science and the arts. You can meet the people of Japan in this pavilion. She'll present a display of her country's history and her plans for the future. The Soviet Union will be here, showing you the astonishing progress her people have made in science, in medicine, in space. You can visit Great Britain's pavilion. The tower is unfinished to symbolize her people's continuing contribution to the progress of the world. Or will you go inside the sculptured pavilion of France, taste her tradition of great food, and see her inventions in science and industry? You can visit Mexico or Yugoslavia, go to Italy or to Israel, Czechoslovakia, the Federal Republic of Germany. And like all the pavilions at Expo, there's no charge for admission. Expo will be a kaleidoscope of languages and cultures dedicated to the single community to which all people belong. The one race of all mankind. When he became aware of his own existence, man became the highest of all creatures in evolution. And so he inherited the world. You can see the entire story of man and his world presented in 6 large pavilions housing Expo 67's theme exhibits. You can visit the harsh cold of the Arctic and see how man is controlling his environment in the polar regions. Man and the oceans will take you beneath the sea. You can find out how the oceans were born and how they in turn gave birth to life. Your life. Do you wonder how you could have evolved from a single cell into the incredible complexity of a human being? Man and life shows you the miracle of your own existence. We live together in villages, in huge cities. What effect is urbanism having on us? How will we cope with the population explosion? What do we know about our health, about education and communications, about our responsibilities in organized society? This is man in the community. Man, the provider. The story of agriculture from ancient times to the science and technology of today. The challenge of feeding a world. Will there be, can there be enough for everyone? We learn to harness our resources. We learned that there is energy in matter, and we used it to make our own environment. Now, are we masters or servants? And what will our future be when we move off our planet into space? You can travel anywhere on the island on Expo's free transportation system. And when the curtain rises on April 28th, Expo will bring you the greatest festival of entertainment the world has ever seen. Theater companies, opera and ballet troupes, the world's finest symphony orchestras and conductors, and the most celebrated artists and entertainers from every country in the world. There'll be something for everybody, every day and night. The exhibition's funfair of La Ronde will stay awake long after the pavilions have closed at night. Canada invites you to celebrate with her the centennial of her confederation. Montreal will welcome you to the Paris of North America, to share her hospitality, her food and wine, to stay with her and see the city. Come to Canada. Visit Expo 67.
I hope people enjoyed that. Wasn't too bad for a $20 eBay acquisition, was it?
That was good. I learned something I didn't know. I didn't realize that the passports were actually the ticket to get in. Every fair that I've been to that's had a passport, you purchased after, you got into the grounds.
Yeah, no, this is definitely how they did it. It was, you bought it, you put your name in it and everything, but then, they would use that for, 1 day, 2 day, whatever, amount of time you got your stamps, you went in. So I also realized I've been pronouncing Caddy Mayvick wrong all these years, and I don't know, I'm gonna have to retrain my brain for however they mention it in the movie.
How have you been saying it?
I've been saying Caddy Mayvick, and that's not the way he said it.
Yeah, Kitimevic.
I've always said Katamovic.
I'll have to go back and listen to it. Well, let me, while I've got the movie screen up, we're gonna jump back to 1976 now, Universal Studios. So the Black Tower actually had an office there once, but we're up on the tram taking a ride around the upper lot, and there was an amphitheater that they had out there for a while. So 1976, they're advertising the upcoming movies to be made, going through the props department. They've moved a lot of these things around, some of these houses and everything. They've moved the facades to make it easier for shooting and also to make way for other attractions and that. But you have all the streets here that, the Munsters were on, the New York City streets, all this burned down in fires, but it's been built back since then. So if you went today, it would not look much different than this. The collapsing bridge, again, the tour guide would say, oh, we don't go on that bridge. Oh, no, Bob, don't take the shortcut. No, Bob, the bridge is finally worn out and they don't take you over it anymore. This was midway between the upper and back lot. It was called Prop Plaza. And you get out the spot to get something to eat. And they also have things like here, we can see Superwoman lifting up the boulder. I thought for a while she was going to throw it at the kid. And the flash flood, which you can still do today. We're going to see more of that in another movie. I would like
the flash flood right outside your window. Don't you?
What's that?
Don't you have the flash floods in your area, right out your window?
Yeah, today or the last couple of days, yeah. We would run around the lot in the golf cart, and it was fun to just go and trip things like the flash flood, or here part the Red Seas and drive through it in a golf cart. This sea here is what they used for the filming of the creature, the Black Lagoon. Part of it was done there. And now we're going down below the water level. PT-73 from McHale's Navy. Runaway train, we'll see that in another movie, would come out and threaten to smack your tram, which always conveniently would stall on the tracks just then. My son was looking at this and he was remembering that we'd be sitting on the hill behind here, up in the golf cart, looking down at the tram and the jaws and everything going. So he got a real kick of seeing the attraction going in from the working side. And it's so tame, today by today's experiences, but even back when I worked there, they'd have to go and periodically retrieve cameras that people would drop them over the side, in shock as the shark came up. Glacier, this was a rotating effect, very well done as far as vertigo inducing at the time. Then they had an animal show, live actor animals. So later, big star became the bird from Beretta. This is the one I took out all the shots of the guy walking down the street pointing the camera at his feet. They would take two people from the audience and make them up as the bride, as Frankenstein, the bride of Frankenstein. And we'll get into another one, also from 1976. This one lasts a bit long. We start first with some views of Beverly Hills. For those that have not come out here, these palm trees still line the streets and very scenic views. Then we're going to get some views of some of the expensive housing in Southern California. It doesn't look too bad in between fires, floods, and earthquakes, does it?
And blizzards now.
Yeah, blizzards now.
Yes, where you
And
guys?
fog and rain.
Yeah, I could just gray out the screen here. Yesterday, the fog was insane up in my part of the town. 50-foot visibility. Driving along the back lot, you could see back then they would just dump all sorts of stuff in pits and just pieces of old sets and everything and bury it over. They had tumbling rocks that would come down. There again is the Black Tower. That was the headquarters administration building. And some of these things like that wreck of a train. Oh, there's Efren Zimbalist Jr.'s dressing room. That wreck of a train, that piece of stuff was still there when I went to work there in the 80s, or actually 90s. Wow. Yeah, 30 years later, it was still sitting there. We always call this Wall Street. Engine 51, the TV show Emergency used that. There's also a real fire truck works on the Universal lot. They still have an Engine 51 there today. This is fascinating if you get the chance to walk the back lots just to see the amount of detail they put in some of them. I was looking at the scene the other day from Dirty Harry where he goes and guys are robbing a bank and he goes out and shoots them. And, he goes to the bit. I know what you're asking yourself. Did he fire 5 shots or 6? And all this excitement I plumb forgot. It was all shot on the Universal back lot, but it was done so realistically, you'd swear it was a real city. And our bridge goes back up and resets itself. The Psycho House, that was the original one. It's been moved around the lot at least twice since then. And the flash flood, we're going to get some more of it. So the rain has started. And here it comes down. I'd like to compare all my pictures over time and see if they've ever had to replace this tree. Oh, here it comes. Oh, boy, just missed us. And there it goes back again. The magic of Hollywood. That water is recycled so that, they haven't been wasting that water all these years. So it's kind of neat because you go through a Mexican town, turn around the bend, you come into the Western town. There was one area called 5 Points. So there were 5 different shooting streets in the silent days. They could all be used by different movies. Oh, luckily he didn't hit us. And this again, the upper lot. They've done all sorts of movies up there over the years. They had the sets for one of the Jurassic Park. Oh, there's the Burbank Studios. That's now Warner Brothers. Back at this point, it was a joint venture between Columbia and Warner Brothers. It was called the Burbank Studios. There's a big version of the settler's cabin. And when you ask how they did it, there's how you did it. Just have a facade, pipes, and little igniters to set the gas on fire. I wonder if Dad got in trouble for taking that shot when he got back home. The Stuntman show is really good. I really enjoyed it. They don't do it now, because they don't want to dramatize guns and that. They also, anything that uses a lot of live action performers, they've tended to dial back because of the cost in doing it. But it was a really fun show to watch.
The guy with the dark hair kind of looks like Elvis Presley.
He does. I'm gonna take a whip to you. Okay, you're gonna do that. Well, the guy obviously in the blue shirt running away is the comic foil, and so we set up a bunch of stuff. So now you're gonna use a whip on me. Well, I'm gonna use a baseball bat on you.
You want to take all my keys?
Now I'm gonna shoot you through the floor. And he skedaddles, but revenge is coming. You can see in today's sensibility, blasting a guy with a shotgun would just not do it. So let me stop sharing and I can look through things in chats here. But hopefully it brought back a few memories of trips to Southern California or Lake George or other things for places.
Bill, you were talking about how realistic like the New York street set looks. You have to really thank set dressers for that, because I think I mentioned in a previous chat, I don't know, towards the end of the pandemic, Fred and I just as a last minute thing, did the Warner Brothers studio tour. And they were filming something, I can't remember what it was. And the difference between an undress set and a dress set, it makes all the difference in the world to have, whatever, street carts, cars. It makes a set look much more realistic.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, there were times it was real interesting that you'd see a set, they sit empty sometimes for years on end, and all of a sudden they go to film something. And then when they get it all dressed up, there's big signs over the place for hot set, and they don't want people going down. Because a lot of times there's a lot of props, things all over there. And then when people either moving them around for continuity issues, they also want people just taking them. But the amount of details that they would go through and put out, newspaper vending machines and hot dog stands. And what I always got a kick out of is they'd have things like the, no parking sign. And, the real one would be driven on a pole into the ground. Well, in some cases, they would just be on a flat, base that they would cover up the base. You wouldn't see it. In other cases, they have maps of the studio where the holes are pre-drilled in the ground, and you can just go and plunk the sign down. For Chicago, no parking. New York, no parking. Whatever. But when you start putting the people out there in costumes and wearing vintage clothing and everything, it's really interesting to go and take a look at it. Yeah, if you get a chance to come out, the Warner's tour is the more intimate of the tours. Universal still does the tour. They've focused the theme park experience much more on 3D rides, and Harry Potter and stuff like that, but they still go through the back lot. but the Warner Brothers one, it's a more intimate one. It's more expensive, but I think it's a more immersive experience. Again, depends what they're shooting. You know, there's times when there's nothing shooting, but you can go through and they'll point out, oh, here's what we did. Murder, She Wrote, and here's the house from Gremlins, and you know, you start recognizing enough stuff that makes sense. It like I said, the movies are they're. I'm part of a group on Facebook now where people are taking pictures of old studio lots and showing then and now. And I keep thinking about, you know, 15 years at Warner Brothers, I think I took one reel of film because it was where you went to work. You just didn't take pictures of the office every day. And now I think to myself, oh my God, I should have. So when I went to Universal and digital came out, now I can start taking a lot more pictures, not worry about the expense. So I have a lot more pictures of the Universal backlot in 2 years of working there than I do with 15 years at Warner's.
You know, Bill, you were talking about the Warner Brothers studio. During the pandemic, they only had one tour. It's kind of a general tour. And I'm not sure if they've gone back to the way they used to do it. You could select different tours if you were interested in classic movies, you know, current action movies, whatever. You could take different tours. But and I may have mentioned this before here. My friend and I, you know, during the general tour we went on, that was all there was to choose from. I mentioned several times that I was interested in black and white classics. Also, I was a big fan of Doris Day's. And so after the lady doing the tour on the bus radio, we were met by another tour guide who specialized in the classic films. And she put us in a golf cart and took us to Doris Day's dressing room, the sets where she worked. A lot of the sets, you know, involving the old black and white classics. So it really is a good tour. It was about $65 there, but it was worth every penny.
Yeah, you know, it's I'm glad you mentioned that. It's the people I think that work at the Warner Tour actually know more about the makings, you know, the history of the lot than a lot of the people that give the Universal tour. You know, Universal is more about the jokes again, you know, just like the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland is a pre-canned patter, but they'll definitely tailor things to your interest more at Warner Brothers. And I'm not just saying that because I want my pension checks to keep coming. So in the chat, Richard Herring asked, the French Pavilion looks like casinos on the fairgrounds. That was exactly what they did, Richard. The French Pavilion was sat there in ruins for years, and then they turned it into a casino. So Carol and I, when we were back there a few years ago, we went back and we were happy. We came out with a net zero. I mean, we won, we lost, and it all balanced itself out. But it's like I've mentioned before, you go to a place, you know, like I went to Expo 67 and you get it in your mind. Then you come back 2 years later, things have changed around. Well, it was so weird to go to the casino because, you know, my brain is still back with the French Pavilion, the buildings there, you walk in the door, and it's a whole different world. You know, I think about something my mother did when we were in, I was at college. We had it's a fairly small house on Long Island, but there were 7 of us, and she was always complaining that the dining room and the kitchen were the wrong size, that, you know, she needed a bigger dining room than kitchen sort of thing. So I went off to college and I came back and she had the house remodeled and the dining room and kitchen, they had moved. And I tell you, it was so weird because you walk in the front door and normally you would turn and go to the right and there was the dining room. Now, when you came in the front door and turned right, there was the kitchen. It took my brain forever. You know, now I look at the old movies of it and everything, and my brain is rewired where the kitchen was for the last 30 years or so. But it's just funny what you get used to and how you know, it goes. Beth asked, know where all the models went? I have no idea where the models went from that that model of the Expo 67. I don't know where that. Hopefully, they're somewhere. Collectors have them or something. I know that they maintained the model for a while because when they got to Expo, the Man of His World days, they redid the model to show what you call it, the Olympic basin when they carved out the Olympic rowing and some things. But I don't have any idea what became of the model in the later years. If anybody knows, or we could put our internet detective on it, and Don could go figure that out for us.
Roger LaRoche would know.
Yes, Roger would know. He for sure. I can ask him. And Scott asked, did you visit Long Lake? Yeah, when I went to college, it was a 400-mile drive from Long Island up to college. Albany about halfway, and then we would go through a whole set of roads going up to the Potsdam. Long Lake, Tupper Lake, there were so many that you went through that. And I'm going back from my 55th college reunion, and somebody was just mentioning you can fly into a town that's only 50 miles away from the college. And that's appealing, the thought of doing it, but I'm either we're going to fly into New York and drive all the way up, or we're going to fly into Albany. Because to me, the drive up there was half the fun. So we're going to go spend some time at Lake George. But Long Lake, and it's named Long Lake for a reason. Scott's nodding his head. You did a week camping in the lake. The troops go there a lot. They go up to Tupper Lake, Long Lake, and they go canoeing. Because a lot of these lakes are connected, one shape, form, or fashion. And they're pretty adventurous and going off and canoeing and taking trips on them. So
it was my wife's first camping trip. We had to haul in all our own water and firewood. We were there for a week to 10 days. And after we left, my wife proclaimed, I am never going camping again. We went to the extreme as our first trip. She was not a happy camper.
Yeah, maybe literally, huh? Well, maybe you should have, done a small dose and camp glamped someplace. The trouble is then she'd be spoiled and expecting that every place else.
Yeah, it was nice though. But we were warned, and you probably know this, do not go onto the private islands on Long Lake because they will shoot.
Oh.
Yes, there are a bunch of private islands that people have bought. They built houses and they are posted. If it's an emergency, yes, but not to take pictures and not to get water.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, up there, they used to have what they call the great camps all throughout the Adirondacks. And they would build these really, really palatial places, for the rich to entertain their friends. And some of the great camps, well, most of them have fallen down, burned down, or whatever. But a few of them are still in private hands. That again, big signs, big gates. Don't go there. But when we were in college, again, we mentioned we like to explore the area, and we were going down one road, and there was a big sign about the road no longer maintained by the county, pass at your own risk. And we drove down it, and it went to one of those great camps. I wish I knew the name. I don't recall what it was, but this great big hulking old hotel-like building at the end of the lake, and it had obviously been abandoned for a good number of years. And it just reminded me of, the Shining just came to mind about this abandoned hotel, and we're the only ones there. But it was just a beautiful wooden structure. And if you're familiar with the term Adirondack chairs, wood chairs, if you drive the route up that go to college off on the right-hand side, the road goes up and it parallels the Hudson River for a long period of time. And you can go rail biking along there, which is super, super great fun. But then it turns left and heads into the mountains. And off to the side is the world's largest Adirondack chair. And it stands about 2 stories tall. Somebody's put out there, and they sell Adirondack chairs, so it's a great thing. But you drive by, I've got to stop and take the obligatory Adirondack chair picture. So, and poor Carol's sitting here going, "Oh God, we're going to do that damn drive again." I think you enjoy it up there, don't you, Carol?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, 5 years. So we
Yeah.
go back every year for the every 5 years for the reunion. So this is hard to believe, number 50. But yeah, great fun. So again, I hope people enjoyed looking back at the Disneyland. It's certainly changed over the years, hasn't it? And then Universal certainly changed over the years. And oh, Richard, you did the Fulton Chain of Lakes in the Adirondack. Yeah, Old Forage Raquette Lake. That's what the troops do. They do that chain, go through it, and they also end up at Raquette Lake. And then they like to do, and I've never done it, the Adirondack Museum that's there. I'm always in a hurry to get up to college. When you have a 400-mile drive, stopping to go to a museum just seems wrong. But the troops have done it, and they keep swearing what a wonderful museum it is. So I think this year we'll try to spend a night or two in that area. And if you're not familiar with it, by the way, Old Forge in New York often is the coldest place in the United States. It will often be colder in Old Forge than it is in Alaska. So, and again, now with global warming, I don't know, maybe the hottest place in the United States, but for years and years, the people over Old Forge were very, very proud, and they would make a big thing about, you think Alaska's cold, come to Old Forge. And, that's where we went to school, not too far away. And it wasn't much warmer in Potsdam if it was real cold in Old Forge. So any other thoughts or anything?
Bill, at the beginning of the Disney film that you showed, the very first one, showed the Main Street train station, and off to the left was I think they're called hand cars, the ones that you.
Yeah.
I think you and Carol did something like that once, didn't you?
Well, Carol and I went rail biking.
Okay,
I mentioned that on there's a disused railroad that runs all along the Hudson River and actually crosses it over one point. And you can go up there, and if you get a chance to take this rail bike, it's really neat. And I was just mentioning to Carol, I just found out this week that there's a rail bike out in Fillmore and Newhall right near me. So I'm going to go in, not Newhall, Fillmore and Santa Paula, same sort of thing. You basically can get a 2-person bike or a 4-person bike, and you pedal, and you're sitting in a seat, so it's like a recumbent bike, and it's really great. I don't know where the pictures are. I'd have to go and dig them out. But you just going along this railroad, and it was beautiful. I mean, the trees and everything, and the troops are on the rail bike in front of us, and we're going along, and all of a sudden the deer just jumps between their bike and our bike, and I got it on video as we were going through. But if you do get a chance to go up to the Adirondacks, you can go to the rail bike Revolution. Yeah, the name of the company is Revolution Rail Bikes. It's funny the things you can remember. It was just great fun. So you go and you ride up. And it's also a funny thing to remember. It's a 4-degree angle upslope getting up there. So and 4 degrees isn't too bad. It can't be too steep, or a train you'd have to have the cog railway. But you basically pedal all the way up there, you get up to the top, and then they have a little turntable, they turn the bikes around, and then you come back. And the ride back is much easier being a 4-degree ride coming downhill. And it's really great, really, absolutely, you hear about it, and I thoroughly recommend it. So if Don and Ken, you guys want to go and do the Star Trek experience sometimes, it's not that far away.
Yeah, that's true. I'd love to see it again.
No, I'm just saying the rail bikes, we could all go up and make a field trip and hit a couple of these places.
Oh yeah. I've never heard of the rail bike thing. That when I lived up there, I don't remember that being there. It must be, of course, it's been 40 years. So
they did it. They've been running it for about the last 6 years now, and it's interesting because the railroad is not technically abandoned. It's owned by some holding company, and they used to run steam train rides out of there, which we were looking forward to. But then they shut down the steam train. They sold off all the equipment and everything, but the rail line is still there. And they're now talking about trying to reopen a mine up there. They trying to remember what it is. There's some ore up there, whether it's something that they need for refining titanium or something else like that. But up to now, it hasn't been economically viable, and now they're talking about it. But then they have got to get it out, so they're talking about bringing back the railroad, and they would be running 1 train a day, and then scheduling the rail bikes around it. But the rail bikes, Carol's not a big biker, but we did real well on it. She and I just pedaled along, and you get up to the end, and you actually go across a bridge right across the Hudson River. So it's really neat. It's an old railroad bridge, but you're out there, and they take your picture just like Disney takes your picture on everything. They take your picture. But what was really nice is they don't sell it to you. They just say, give us your camera, we'll take all the pictures you want. So you stop at the pre-designated spot on the bridge, give them the picture, they take it, and off you go. I'll have to dig out the movies from that and show those on a future thing. It's really fun. It's a beautiful, you don't see any cars, you don't see anything. You just see the bike in front of you, the bike behind you, and all sorts of flowers growing along the rail bed, real pretty.
How tiring did you find it? Something,
Not too bad. I made Carol pedal. No, no. No, it wasn't too bad. I mean, back at that point in time, we haven't been doing much bike patrol for LAPD since the pandemic, but back at that point in time, I was doing 20-30 mile rides for the bike patrol on an often basis, so it was not a problem. And like I said, it's recumbent. You're sitting down, you pedal, and
I think that when we did the uphill one, we felt it, I felt it anyway. And then on the way back, it was downhill. So by the time we finished, we were fine.
yeah, it's really not too bad. It's actually interesting because, you know, you start thinking about, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do this. And you go in a convoy, they don't send you off by yourself. So there's probably about 20 rail bikes. And if you had a real hard problem, you've got 18 people maybe behind you that would be getting upset with you. So I don't know what they do in that point. But it really, if you're just capable of, if you can walk around Disney World for a day, you can do the rail bikes, you know, and you may not be the fastest guy in line, but frankly, you don't want to be too fast. You just want to take your time, and it takes about an hour or something to get up, and an hour or something to come back. And I think the whole thing lasted about 3 hours, you know, because they go up, you get off, you turn around, you come back. It wasn't bad at all.
What's the altitude?
Oh, it wasn't too high.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the altitude. I mean, the Albany area is, you know, up there compared to Long Island, but I mean, if the highest mountain that we saw, today, Whiteface Mountain, was 4,900 feet, this is probably half of that, something like that. You're not going to get oxygen problems from it.
Yeah, one thing I have discovered in traveling, having worked as a flight attendant for 43 years, cabin altitude on most airplanes is about 7,000 feet. So you'd think, me having worked in that climate or that altitude for 43 years, altitude wouldn't bother me. But a couple times when I've traveled, the most notable time that I remember was in Salzburg. We there's a cog railway, and you see it in the movie The Sound of Music, and it takes you up to the top of this mountain, which is actually, when the movie opens, they fly over a snowfield to a cliff, and that's the mountain we went up to on the cog rail during the summer, so there's no snow. But you get off the cog rail, have to climb another maybe half mile. My friend and I mean, it was like 20 feet. We just have to stop and gasp for breath. All the locals were running by us, but the altitude just gets to me sometimes. Yeah, it's amazing. You think you're fairly fit, but you get into a different altitude, and that kind of all goes down the tubes.
Yeah, it's interesting, how it hits you. Carol's wanted to go to Machu Picchu for years, and one of the things they tell you there is you have to worry about the altitude there and climbing that stuff. So
yeah, I think they try to acclimate you. You go,
You're supposed to
you
stay
start
there
in
a
one
couple of
city, go to
nights.
another city, and
Right. I don't
that's my bucket list too, is Machu Picchu and Nepal also. And I'm afraid I wouldn't do well in Nepal with the altitude.
But even around here, Randy, we have one of my favorite places is Mount Pinos, and the top parking lot there is over 7,000 feet.
Mm.
I mean, you might not. Does it have anything to do with the diabetes?
I don't think so. No, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, anyway, I love the mountains, but then my
me too.
parents had a house up in the mountains for many years, and so I got used to that.
Yeah, I can remember Mexico, my first couple of Mexico City layovers, which is over 5,000 feet. I had headaches the whole time I was in Mexico City.
I'm sorry. I like altitude, but I don't go up that much.
Well, Mexico City could have been between the altitude and back then, or even still, the smog. It's really bad there.
Oh, is it?
Oh, horrible. Yeah, maybe not so much now, but when I first started in mid-late 70s, it was really bad.
Oh,
we went up to a ski resort in Colorado, and Carol had a little bit of altitude problem up there.
Yeah, but that had to do with the fact that they gave us wine to drink, I think. No, I'm serious. I got sick I mean, I felt really lightheaded and I went outside and I lay down on a bench for a little while and then I felt okay. But that was pretty high. That was 11,000 feet or something.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It, hang on one second, just looking for something here. What was interesting was the oh, here, okay, here we go. 1 second. Let me share screen. Share screen. Share screen. So
That's neat.
yeah, so this again, this is you come across the Hudson River. They, you know, you stop and pose for the picture and everything. But it's just, you see the scenery up there. It's just absolutely gorgeous. There's no, you know, fast food shops or anything like that. And these bikes are really lightweight. That you can pick them up and turn them around. They actually have a turntable, but they're just basically extruded aluminum. You know, they have the plastic wheels, and then you have a set of brakes. Carol's hand is on the pedal there. This is a set of brakes to you know, slow you down, and off you go. So we had a 2-person bike, and our buddies had a 4-person bike, and but poor Bill Troop, I think, you know, his granddaughter was, oh, this is fun. You know, about a third into it, she said, "Oh, you can pedal." So Bill,
How many miles did you go on that? How many miles did you travel?
yeah. So
How far did you go?
what's that, Irv?
How far did you go on that? A couple miles?
Yeah, you go a couple miles. You go about 2-3 miles. It's not all that far. Maybe a little bit more than that. It's not really not that bad. And you get up and like I said, you all get off the bikes, and they have a little turntable. They spin it around and bring you back, and you get back on the bikes. But it's just really nice. You're down. You get off the bikes and you walk down to the edge of the Hudson River and play with the rocks and throw water in, you know, rocks in the water and stuff. And
There's a whole bunch of videos where people take those things and they put a gasoline engine on.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of guys that get into that. I'm lucky I learned about that late in life, or I would have gotten into it. There's all these old abandoned railroads in the desert out here, and these guys build these speeders, and they go along. And some guys buy the real ones from the railroad that they used to use for what they call right-of-way maintenance. Other guys basically just take a set of 4 wheels, a sheet of plywood, and a lawnmower engine, gear it to the wheels, and off they go. And they go ripping. You look on YouTube, some of them, they really go ripping along. And I'd be concerned about going over a 100-year-old rail track, you know. And they go right over old bridges. They go into tunnels. I mean, they look like they're having a hell of a time. This one guy's got one where he's got a big air horn on it. And as he goes through the desert, he's just honking the air horn. He's having a great time. And they've got, you know.
That's the guy that never stops honking. That's the guy who never stops honking his horn.
Yeah.
Says, a great video if he laid off the horn a bit.
Yeah, he does. But they open the cooler, they pop a beer, and they're just out in the desert having fun. It looks like a great time. But there are actually clubs where you buy these restored speeders, and then they will go and rent time on a railroad track that's still in service. And they will put, you know, 10, 20 of these things on it. They'll go through the towns, and they put flagmen out to stop all the side traffic. And they go out to some town, stop, have lunch, turn around, and go back. And those things are real interesting because you can't pick it up like the rail bike. They actually have a hydraulic jack that goes down, lifts the thing up off the rail bed, you turn it around, go back, and then they lower it back down, and off they go. So, you know, never would have thought, you know, you see one of these things, how do you turn it around? Do you jack it up, spin it around? Just think how handy that'd be if you could do that in your car in some parking spots. Well, I hope everybody's staying dry, and for folks back east, I hope the wind, the snow, and everything, all the rain that we're getting right now is going to be coming snow. So I saw Carolyn when she's probably getting ready to go out and shovel some of it. We've just been getting quite a bit of rain out here. And let's see, well, Richard, you got the 10,000 feet of Mount Fuji, huh? Wow. Yeah, I've only, you know, looked at Mount Fuji. I've never even been tempted to climb it, but that must have been a hell of an adventure getting up even that high.
Well, you start at 5,000 usually at some station. And I think I could have gone a little farther. My climbing partner wasn't in as good condition, but younger people in their 20s and 30s with legs and lungs that are younger didn't have a problem. So
Yeah, everything, I don't remember who said the expression about youth is wasted on the young, but Carol and I went out years ago, and we were in Colorado, same trip we went to that ski resort. We went horseback riding, had a great time, but we also went off for a Jeep tour of the area, and we went way up to the top of this mountain, and we're feeling, oh, we're pretty brave. We're all at the top of this mountain, and everything, and you hear this click, click, click noise coming from down below, and you go, what the hell is that? It was some guys coming up on a bike, and it was their bike, gears clicking, and they came up to the top. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I wouldn't want to walk up this thing, let alone ride a bike. And then the scary thought is you got to ride it back down. And I may have mentioned this other talk. There was a guy that I worked with named David Nasterin. Again, funny things you remember. Dave would come into work on Mondays, and we'd all look to see what Dave had done to himself over the weekend, because he would go mountain biking. And as he said, the downward hill was the bitch. It was terrible. And he must have spent more time going over the handlebars than sitting behind them. So. Well, we'll have something else for next Saturday. Don, if you could give us a tour sometime of Mission Control, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I've got all the photos from the thing. I took out the Star Trek stuff too, so I can do past and future space if you like.
Yeah, if you could put that together, let me know what Saturday would work for you. For folks that don't know it, Don just got a on-the-floor tour of the Mission Control Center. So, I gather that's behind you.
Pardon me, yeah, that's what's behind me there. It's been like a 40-year goal to get on the other side of the glass. Most tours take you can look at Mission Control through the glass, but they wouldn't let you in the room. And this tour let you in the room, and it's just an amazing place.
Where's that at? Is that in Florida or Texas?
Houston. Houston, Mission Control and Space Center, Houston, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Is this active control room like for ISS, or is it a historical one for Apollo?
Well, you get to go in the historical one. You get to visit the active one, but they don't let you in that room. You look through the glass. They actually tell you not to speak too loudly because apparently they can hear you down there. But yeah, you see both. I don't know if you guys know, but they restored Mission Control a few years ago. They did a crowdfunded thing, and they've got an amazing presentation where they recreate moments in Mission Control, and they play back the actual video that was playing at each of those moments. All the consoles display what they were displaying at those exact moments. It's fascinating to watch. So, but yeah, I'd love to show it to you.
When years ago, my brother Kevin came down to visit me in Florida, and we were taking a tour of the Kennedy Space Center. And I've got a picture of him standing outside a door about, authorized personnel only, NAPA only. I mean, basically, it looks like go in here and we'll kill you. So I just opened the door and Kevin said, hey, let's go and see what's inside here. He was like horrified. Well, I had my NAPS ID, so it wasn't any particular problem. But it was great. And again, I walked out on the floor, the real one down in Florida, and you don't take pictures of it because it's the office. Now moron. So
I regret so much of not taking pictures while I was flying, because I flew on the DC-8, the 707, 720B. I mean, these are planes that have been long gone.
Yeah.
That fly cargo now, but I really regret not having carried at least one of those little 110 cameras with me and snap some photos. Luckily, a lot of my flying partners did that. And that we're retired, we're kind of sharing them, but I could kick myself in the butt not having my Nikon or whatever camera I had at the time with me.
Yeah, now today with cell phones, it's all different. You take pictures of everything, so it's a whole different world. Let me just look for one picture here real quick. iCloud. Like I said, the cameras come in real handy for all sorts of things. Yesterday, let me share screen. Let's see, wrong one. Share screen. Okay. So yesterday we were on a patrol and we came across this car on the side of the road, which a couple of months ago, they got a bus stuck up there. It's a bunch of vagrants living on top of a mountain that have been told to get off there. And now they got this car stuck there yesterday. So somebody reported as a car over a cliff and, had to go up and make sure there was nobody in it. But, now with the cell phone in your pocket, you can just take a picture, attach it to your report, turn it in, and, normally you wouldn't have, stuff with you. Today, everywhere you go, you can document just about every part of your life. So, well, we'll be back next week. I will see if I can get more movies have come in this week, and I'll see what more I can get to. The only trouble with doing all the movies is it takes me away from doing pictures. So, but I've been doing a few of those over time as well.
Need to hire an assistant.
It's actually interesting. I was being interviewed early this week for somebody's getting ready to do a documentary about the '64 World's Fair for the Queens Museum, and they were talking about having a film crew come out here and watch me restoring pictures to try to encourage people to restore their own pictures. And I said, yeah, that'd be the cinematography equivalent of watching paint dry, But I also said, when did you have this in mind? Because how many months do I know before I could clean up this office because it became even palatable to show it?
How much space you have in your house to hold this collection? Is it taking over all the rooms?
The house is just short of 4,000 square feet, and we have about 10,000 square feet worth of stuff in it. No, it's I've got way too much stuff. We have a 3-car garage, and they haven't seen a car in years. That sort of stuff. And I've just got to figure out what to do with some of this stuff. It's just way too much. But
yeah, I'd like to see a photo of your entire collection, just the room where it's in.
Well, hang on here 1 second. Let me see real quick. The things of modern photography. See if we can do this. 1 second.
Carol's very controlled there. I expect her to go, no, don't show the house.
He's going to need a bigger house.
We may get more than we bargained for.
No. We'll see how fast. I just took a picture on the phone. We'll see how fast this uploads to iCloud here and gets onto my my PC.
Is the collection in one room or several rooms?
Oh no, and this is just one closet.
Oh, one closet.
Come on, upload.
While you're doing that, Bill, I'll just mention, I forgot to mention in Epcot, the Canadian Pavilion finally has a new film.
Oh, does it?
It's fully HD. It doesn't have the Martin Short in it or anything. It's just more of a straight documentary, but it's of course a whole lot clearer. And it was nice.
Was that the Canada song? The Canada?
They do put that in part of it. They have to do that, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still circle vision, correct?
Yes.
Do they take the old footage, with like the Mounties and here's the picture showed up. Did they use the old footage in high res it, or did they just what you call it?
I think it was all new footage. I can't swear to it, but nothing that was obvious. I mean, it's been 4 years since I last saw it, so it's a little bit vague.
All right, here, let's see, share screen. Okay, that's the closet here of the my office here. The big bag up top is plastic, mailing supplies and everything. But that entire closet, those are all slides and pictures and everything waiting to be restored. So, like I said, it goes all the way back. I've just got too much of it. And then thank God I've got a very, very understanding wife that puts up with my collecting all this crap. So
I was going to say, Carol have any personal possession?
What were you asking, Don?
I was just saying, does Carol actually have any personal possessions, or is it only store your stuff?
No, I have a lot of my own stuff.
No, Carol, a number of years ago, got into depression glass and different figures and things like that. And we have been to many antique stores over the years, and it's me more encouraging. You really need that. You really need to get that. And she's not the collectaholic that I am.
Mm-hmm.
I could open up the closet and show you my stamp collection, for example. I mean, it's insane.
And just to be clear, Bill, that closet was just your input material, right? You've got the archive, which could be hundreds of times larger.
Oh, yeah, I mean, after I scan the pictures, they all go into binders and plastic sheets, and then they go into a different closet and a different room and line the shelves in there, so. I
No
figured,
wonder you need 4,000 square feet.
yeah, no, I've scanned, I think I've got about 40,000 pictures scanned, and I don't know how many more I've got sitting, waiting to be done, so.
It's gonna take you a lifetime.
Yeah, well, I'm not planning on going anywhere soon, knock wood, so, you know, that's the whole thing, a couple of us, we talked a while back about what do you do with it, where's it go, and I'm starting to make some plans or things to do something like that. I don't want to stick the kids with all this crap, but you know, for the meantime, it's great fun. It's been I was saying to the woman doing this documentary, I got into the photography, you know, the restoration thing, just as you know, restore my own family pictures. But I find it very relaxing. I do it, spend it, and you know, the hour I spend on doing that, I'm not looking at the news, obsessing about, you know, wars or poverty or earthquakes or politics or any of those things. So, well, see you folks next week. And Don, if you can let me know some date that would work for you for mission
Okay.
control, that would
Sounds
that would
good.
be great. And Ken, if you would like to take us to Epcot and save us money for having to go and stand online, you're a great photographer. I'm enjoying the pictures you've been posting. So if you'd like to put together something for an hour or so of you know, Ken's Epcot 2023 trip, I'd love to see it.
Okay, we can do that, certainly.
And I don't know if everybody saw this. They're going to be selling Dole Whip in your local supermarket. Has everybody seen that?
I saw the news article about it. I didn't see anything about when exactly.
Yeah, three different flavors. It said strawberry and pineapple, and I forget what the third one was, but banana, I think, something like that. But yeah, well, we can all sit here and whip up a Dole Whip and pretend we're at the theme park.
Is it supposed to be some kind of mix, or is it supposed to, I don't know how they're gonna make a soft serve.
I don't
Is
know.
it pre-made?
I think it's probably you get a mix and some ground ice and put in a blender or something.
We actually ran into Dole Whip at a cinnamon roll restaurant here last weekend. I was very surprised. They said they licensed the name.
Yeah, Carol and I were in Hawaii a number of years ago, and they had a thing about, you know, Hilo Hattie's. If you're familiar with the chain of, you know, they sell you know, Hawaiian shirts and sarongs and stuff. And at the airport, they give you a book to come in, you know, Hilo Hattie's for a free Dole Whip. And I said, oh, okay, I don't need another Hawaiian shirt, but a Dole Whip sounds great. And we got there, and the Dole Whip machine was broken. The guy said,
I don't think
Yeah,
Hilo
that
had, I think it's long gone now.
no, they went
I don't
bankrupt,
think-
but I think they came back under restructuring. So
okay.
it's a fraction of what it was. But I was so, oh man, I want to go for this Dole Whip. I think it hasn't worked in years. They're so happily passing out the coupons. Remember, that's why they
The
went back.
concourse that Delta uses in Honolulu, I had several years ago a Dole Whip concession stand
Mhm.
right across from the gate we used to come into. I don't know if it's still there or not.
Well, use one of your passes and find out for us.
Oh yeah, I'll go. If I could ever get on. Lights are so full right now.
Yeah.
I love what you're talking about the Dole Whip machine being broken. It's like every time I go to McDonald's for specifically to get a milkshake, the machine's broken.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's true of every McDonald's.
There's
Yeah,
actually
every time.
there's actually a website that tracks all the McDonald's machines, and you can report them if they're down or not. So I mean, no joke, it's become such a thing that about the machines being broken that somebody put together a website. Just like you can go on your cell phone and say on Waze there's a traffic jam on Interstate 5, you can go, oh, the Dole machine's broken at the McDonald's on Balboa Boulevard.
Go to In-N-Out, their shakes are better anyway.
Yeah.
White Castle.
You're
I haven't
supposed to
been
get
in
snow
and out
tonight,
since
Bill?
yesterday.
You're supposed to get some snow there tonight, Bill?
What's that?
You gonna get snow there tonight?
Here? No. We got a lot of rain yesterday. Matter of fact, I posted on Facebook. We had a very, very heavy fog in the morning, and then it started raining. And we were joking that the visibility of 50 feet in the fog looked good compared to the visibility of the rain. And we were just getting back to the station, and a call came out for a traffic collision. And my partner said, I am not getting out of this car. And we actually got back there, pulled under the overhang at the gas pumps, although we use electric cars. We got out under the overhang so we could do all our paperwork and everything there, and then make a mad dash in the station. It was coming down like a fire hose. So today's only light rain, but it's supposed to be back on Tuesday, another 2+ inches of rain.
Oh, boy.
So it's
We had fog here in Long Beach all night. Actually just about 10 minutes ago, the foghorns stopped.
really.
Yeah, I mean, not where I am, about 4 blocks from the beach, but it's just overcast here, but you could hear the foghorns down on the harbor.
Yeah, no, it's crazy weather. I mean, we went, for how long has this drought been? 7 years, something like that.
Well, it's over now, I hope.
Yeah, the trouble is they're saying, what happened now is you get all the snow and people are trapped up in the mountains. They had 13 people die up in the mountains and they couldn't get, the snow and everything. But now it's raining and they're predicting massive floods this week and next week as all that snow melts and everything. So we are, knock wood, we live across from a small.
Is that
What's that? Yeah.
Like,
We live across from a small stream that has overflowed 3 times in the years we've lived here. And about 2 weeks ago, it overflowed where the water was going across the tops of all the bridges. A couple of years ago, it got about 30 feet off the banks of the thing, but we're luckily up a slight hill. So if it ever got to our house, knock wood, people down in the lower part of the valley would all be swimming. I mean, we don't have a hill right behind us. There's so many of the hills that are starting to get saturated and, slipping away right now that, again, I would not buy a house on the top of a hill because I don't want the fire coming up, and I don't want to buy a house at the bottom of the hill so the hill comes down. So the problems you have living in paradise, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you folks next week, and I hope everybody has a good week and weather treats all of us well in between. Take
Thanks,
care.
Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Bill.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
Bill.
Bill. Great
And Carol
presentation.
also, thank you.